Hello everyone, Ken here, back with some more data science content for you. Today I'm talking about the things that I wish I had known before I started down the data science career path. I'm going to talk a bit about the expectations related to the job, as well as some of the tools that would have been useful for me to really get going full steam ahead. As usual, please hit that like button if this content is interesting to you, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Now, the first thing I'd like to mention is related to data wrangling, data manipulation. That's a lot larger part of the job than I expected going in. Most data scientists probably spend more than 50% of their time manipulating data and less than 50% of their time actually running algorithms, doing data exploration, etc. So that's something that if you're really good at, it can pay huge dividends in the long run. And if you're quick and efficient at it, that can also really add to your value and add to your efficiency. Another thing that was a little bit different than my expectation going in at every data science job that I've had is I didn't have as much control over the projects I was working on than I was expecting. When you come out of school, your assignments focus on projects that you choose. And with a lot of the data science work at any company, it's more of a push. You're supposed to work on this because this aligns with business objectives. So that's just something to keep in mind. That is very common pretty much across every type of job. But if you want to be a go-getter, you can also push for projects that are interesting to you. I think it shows really good initiative to leadership that you want to work on specific initiatives. And if you can have success there, you might have more freedom going forward in your project selection, etc. Now, coming out of school, I really thought I knew everything. I was kind of a smart ass, and I started working, and I learned that basically everyone that I worked with was really intelligent. They knew what they were doing. They knew a lot about data science, and they knew about stuff other than data science. And I think one of the greatest things about working in this field is that you get to meet a ton of really intelligent people, and you get to learn from them. And that's a great asset to have. There are people that come from physics backgrounds, people that come from very technical computer science backgrounds, and taking their knowledge and building it into your skill set is how you grow in this career and how you grow as a person. Now, on the other hand, you do work with people that aren't quite as technical. There's always business stakeholders that don't have a good grasp of data science, and it's an important skill to understand how to communicate with these people, how to be able to take technical requirements, how to take what's going on inside of an algorithm and explain them to basically anyone. Now, it's not that business people are less intelligent, it's just that they have less focus and they haven't been studying this for a long period of time. With learning from other people comes the feeling that data science is a lot bigger than you thought. When I first started, I kind of thought that data science was like, well, I have some data, I run it through an algorithm, I productionize it, and I'm done. Data science can be whatever you want it to be. It can be involving simulation, you can bring in other computer science topics, you can bring in a bunch of different types of modeling, and it's constantly growing and changing. The techniques that are used on a day-to-day basis can even fluctuate. And there's a wealth of research and things that are going on continuously that are improving the field. So it's important to continually keep growing, to keep learning, to see what's on the cutting edge. There's also new technologies that are constantly released that can make your life easier and can also change the way that you think about different problems. Now, in terms of tools, I think there are a couple of things I really wish I had put more upfront effort in learning. There's the traditional stuff like Python, a bunch of different SQL things, or dealing with databases, relational, etc. But there's another element of productionization of code that is generally overlooked. People use things like Docker, they use SageMaker, and these things are being more and more commonly used in the field, and it's important to have a grasp of them. You can write really good code, but if it's not generalizable, if you're not able to make it an endpoint, it's not super useful in the field. So I would focus on learning different frameworks that are out there for productionalizing code and productionalizing data science. While tools are really important, at the end of the day, work revolves around other people. And in every company, the culture, the way data science is done is very different. So the way that projects are scoped, the way that projects are run, the way that requirements are gathered really vary significantly by company. And you can work in, they vary by the size of the company, if it's small or large, what stage the company is at, if it is a startup or a high growth company or an established corporation. So learning about how the companies that you're applying for positions at, how they operate is extremely important. And you have to find a culture that really meets your style. Some people work on a bunch of different projects at the same time. Some people have a very linear focus in their projects and the things that they do on a day-to-day basis. So make sure you do your homework, make sure you really research the type of organization that you're applying to and getting into. And to that point, to a certain extent, office politics do play a fairly large role in data science. Data science sits in between engineering and software and the business side, and so there is a lot more communication and kind of jockeying for time than there are in some other positional roles. So I think that that's just something that's an inevitability, but you have to be prepared for it. You're going to be asked to do a bunch of different things. You're going to be pulled different ways by different people, and it's really important to make sure that your manager, the people that you're working for, have your best interests in mind. I think that you find this out relatively quickly through the interview process, and that's one of the questions that I generally ask when I'm interviewing. I ask what the structure is like, who are our main stakeholders, and how does my perceived boss react with those stakeholders, and how does my work get shown, etc. So that's something to keep in mind. That's something to focus on, because in some companies, office politics can be really bad. In some, they exist, but they are beneficial for you in your role. One of the other biggest deviations from education to in-practice data science is the idea of statistical significance. In business, you're just trying to create positive expected value rather than to have certainty that something works. You want to evaluate what the return is compared to what the cost is. If the cost is that things stay the exact same, if your algorithm doesn't have any impact, that's generally fine. You want to do things that can possibly create value. Now, I'm not saying that statistical significance isn't important in some areas. If you're testing a new drug, if you're in the pharmaceuticals industry, you really want to be sure that people aren't getting sick. But if you're focusing on different customer groups to target, if you can get a 1% better outcome, that might be worth putting into production. Now, people really get wrapped up in this, but we forget that statistical significance nowadays, with the size of data that we have, is relatively arbitrary. We just want to be able to create a positive net effect. And that really goes a long way with the business. Some people get too theoretical, but at the end of the day, sometimes the best we can do is to create a 1% lift, and that can create millions, even billions of dollars of revenue, which is pretty cool. Thank you so much. If you have any questions relating to any of the topics I talked about, please leave them in the comment section. As usual, have a great one, and thank you for watching.